Hi everybody, I'm Brett and this is Tabletop Sagas. Welcome to the second video on the channel, and firstly I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody who checked out the first video. It did far better than I was actually expecting first video to do. Today we will be looking at some 10mm Song Chinese from Irregular Miniatures. This is going to be going in my Hail Ceasar centimetre scale project. So without any further ado, let's dive in and I will show you how I painted these guys up. So for these guys, they are pretty interesting models, 10mm scale. As I mentioned in my last video, I only really have experience with Pendragon now, I guess. They're pretty much the only one. I do have some experience with 15mm is about the closest. These are same metal cast, although a little bit lower quality than the Pendragon ones. I'm finding that the faces not sculpted or cast particularly well. I'm finding there is quite a lot of extra mold lines to clean up on these guys. A particular annoyance is on the shields of the swordsman. There is a mold line running along the face of the shield rather than along the edge, as you might expect. Nothing that can't be cleaned up to the point where you won't really notice it with a metal file or a hobby knife, but it's definitely something to be looked out for. Be considerate of that when you do get these models. Now, the painting for them, the logic here is to get boots on the table as quickly as possible. So we're coming in with the airbrush. We're going to get them primed with a black. I've learnt my lesson trying to do a white prime in the last video, and also trying to record from the correct side from the beginning today. So primed in black, then we get a terracotta on there and a zenithal with a red. These ones, I did decide to go with a red for the zenithal, although I'm expecting that a large percentage of the model won't actually end up being red. I do find it can be a difficult colour though for me personally to paint, particularly the Vallejo ones, the old game colour range that I have. It's not brilliant, and so I decided to do it with an airbrush to try and make it a little bit easier on myself. Another difference with the Mongols is that I'm not going to be trying to do multiple colours here with the airbrush. I don't think it's a great idea on smaller minis and infantry. With the Mongols, there was a clearly separated line between the horse and the rider that I could focus my efforts around. That doesn't really exist here on the infantry. Things are a lot closer together and in a lot smaller areas. So I figured best just do one colour with the airbrush, and then we'll go back in with the brush and get all the other details. With that, we're on to the painting with the brush itself. This is where we're just going in, we're filling in all the browns. This I've used for the pants, the sort of gambeson undercoat type thing, a little bit of detail on some of the hats for the infantry commanders, and then the straps for the cavalry commander. These I've done in a couple of different browns to try and add a little bit of variety. So I've gone for a leather, a medium coloured brown and a khaki colour. I'm not going to mention the colour brands and the exact colours I'm using because honestly they don't matter. Just trying to get a little bit of variance in what will ultimately be a background colour for these minis. The metals for these did just get a simple mid-tone colour. I wasn't going anything too special on these. I did first initially paint the areas that were going to be going metallic black. The reason for that is that I think that metals can have not brilliant coverage sometimes, and over a red that seemed dangerous. I really didn't want that red shining through at all. So just getting a black on there first and then coming in with the metal gives a little bit more of a consistent appearance. I will mention one product in this, and that's the Vallejo Airbrush Black. I use it because you can buy it in big bottles on Amazon, and it is an ideal paint for this sort of application. It's pre-thinned to a nice consistency and you can basically paint it straight on. It does go to show you though, don't always trust what the manufacturer says that the product is actually for. This says it's an airbrush paint. I use it almost exclusively with a paintbrush, and I find that I do get great results with it for that application. So that's the red's done, the metal's done, and the brown's done. Final one is the skin. And skin I did do a little bit different than last time. Last time I did all the other stuff, I washed and then I did the skin separately. I've done a little bit of research now. I've watched some YouTube videos and trying to have a look at how to paint Asian skin tones. These videos, not terrible, good for what they are, but not brilliant for what my application is. Reason is most of them are looking at 28mm or 32mm scale models. I'm looking at 10mm. So by very nature, the process that I'm going to be needing is going to be slightly different. I can't rely on things like layering quite as well at all, really, to be honest, whereas they could. But I did distill it down to 2 colours ultimately. So I'm going for a cadmium yellowy, more yellowy based skin tone with then a brown wash on top. Big problem I had last time with the Mongols was I found that the skin tone ended up being a little bit too in the red scale, and this should pretty much completely eliminate that. There will still be a little bit of it because there is that red base coat with the airbrush underneath, but it should be far reduced. And with that, we're on to the washes. Really quick to get to this stage, and this stage is just as, if not more so, quicker. I'm literally going through and just giving the entire model a wash with a brown. That's it, nothing more, literally. The reason why I decided to do that is because I'm mainly focusing on colours that are on the warmer side with the red and the brown. And brown wash over a brown also makes sense. The metals, they maybe could have looked a little bit better had I used a black wash. However, I have used brown over metals before and never really had too much of a problem with it. It does tend to give a little bit more of a dirty look, but that's fine. Not too bothered about that one. Given the aim of this is to get boots on the table, adding a whole extra wash just for the metals seemed like an unnecessary time cost that I really just didn't want to be spending on these. I did quite a bit of research initially to try and figure out what it was that I wanted to be painting next. I knew I wanted to do the opponents of the Mongols, and it seemed like to me that the Chinese were the best way to go with that. They were the first other external large nation that they came across and had to deal with. Well, Jurchen Chinese and then the Song Chinese, but that's a level of detail I'm not too worried about at the minute. And I think I can use these models to represent the Jurchen / the Jin Empire as well as the Song Dynasty China as well. And we're going back in with the highlighting. Again, in the interest of speed and simplicity and just trying to get an effect, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in over my 3 main colours and bring them back up to the base coat that I originally used. So that's the reds, the metals and the skins. Not worrying about the browns, I want them to sink into the background, so there's no point in highlighting them further up, I don't think, at this stage. And here is where I did encounter an issue that I've hinted at a little bit in the beginning. I did mention that the sculpts weren't great, particularly on the faces. Hasn't been a problem up until now, but it's kind of difficult to highlight up a nose or a chin when the nose or the chin doesn't exist. Not great, and definitely caused me a little bit of a problem. There is the infantry commander I will shout out as being a really nice model, sculpted, and you can see the face and you can get in and do that detail, which is brilliant. At this stage it is really important, please, please, please varnish your metal minis. Cannot stress it enough. It will save you time in the long run, is my opinion. Especially if you're going to be transporting minis. If you're taking them to your friendly local gaming shop, to tournaments, to cons, whatever, they're going to get chipped, they're going to get scratched. Save yourself the time, just varnish them. So for the basing on these models, if you do the conversion from inches to centimeters for this Hail Ceasar project, then a battle line infantry would work out as roughly 60mm by 15mm. Nice size, and I did originally look at that. First of all, though, problem, nobody does that size. certainly not, you know, as a standard. You probably could get them custom laser cut. I know that companies like Pendragon do offer that service. However, I was slightly worried that that could mean they were a little bit unstable because of how wide they are. And also, as well, there is the problem that if I wanted to, say, reorder the unit into column rather than in battle line, I have no way of representing that in the unit structure. So I decided to go for 2 bases a piece, so half the size, 30mm by 15mm, and luckily Pendragon do sell bases in that size, so I gave them a go, got them out, tested the models, and then found another problem. That's a very tight fit. If you're going to do basically 4 models wide by 2 models deep on 1.5 centimeters, particularly for the archers, doesn't fit. So I had to rethink, and I decided to print myself off some 3D bases. I increased the size by 0.5 centimeter in either direction. So I'm now doing a 35 by 20, 2 of those, so it's effectively 7 centimeters wide, 70mm by 20mm, or 2 centimeters deep. Gives me plenty of room, but at the same time, 4 models wide still looks like quite a dense formation, so it's that good middle ground. So for the basing, I'm going to be continuing using the product that I used for my Mongols, and that's the Geek Gaming Scenics small scale base ready range. Excellent product for this project. And with that, we've got the models finished. I am really happy with these. I do think they look really nice, but unfortunately I don't have any Blue Peter style or Art Attack style. Here's one I made earlier. That's a reference for anybody who grew up in the 90s. Like I did last time though, I'm afraid that this is what I had time to paint, so this is what you've got. I am going to be keeping working on these though, so do expect to see some more in the very near future. Now, with this project, I'm not going to be painting everything on screen. I don't think that you want to see me paint another 7 divisions I'm aiming for of Mongols over and over again. I do have a plan to show you what Genghis's division itself is going to look like. I'm going to do something a little bit more with that, but the rest I'm going to probably paint off camera. I do have a few different unit types to add to the Song Chinese, so I am going to be adding those as well. And I am looking at some Islamic forces for the Khwarezmian Empire, which is going to be the next main opponent after the Chinese. If you do have any ideas though, do feel free to put them down in the comments of other things you would like to see, whether it's in this project or maybe want me to go and have a look at something like some other 28mm models or something else that I'm also working on behind the scenes. So thank you very much. If you have enjoyed the video, do consider hitting the subscribe button. I have already had far more people than I expected, and I would love to have more people come along with me on this journey. I will see you next time. I've been Brett here at Tabletop Sagas, and thank you for watching the video.